War isn't just fought on the battlefields. The most terrifying wars are fought behind closed doors, where the walls are too afraid to bear witness. Imagine being a high-ranking radio operator for a powerful empire one day and the next. Find yourself shackled in a basement where every passing second feels worse than death itself. Today's story isn't about a glorious victory. It is about the silent screams of the German female auxiliaries captured by the Soviet NKVD after the fall of Berlin in 1945. This is the story of Marine, a young woman whose fate delivered her into a torture cell where the last flickers of humanity were extinguished. Welcome to Aviation Tales, and today we are stepping into a corner of history where vengeance knew no limits. Watch until the end, because this story reveals what happens when the price of war becomes personal, and the punishment becomes a living nightmare. It was a frozen evening in February when Soviet forces overran Marine's unit. There was no time to escape. She was dragged by her hair through the slush and thrown into a truck bound for a secret Soviet filtration camp. Marine expected to be treated as a prisoner of war, but the moment she was pushed into a dark, damp basement, she realized her mistake. The air smelled of stale blood and old fear. She was strapped to a wooden plank, her limbs locked in iron binders. A single blindingly bright bulb hung from the ceiling, burning 24/7 so that she could never close her eyes for even a moment. This was sleep deprivation, a tactic that would strip away her sanity within days. The cycle of pain began when a Soviet interrogator, his eyes burning with years of stored hatred, entered the room. He demanded secret codes and the locations of high-ranking officers. When Marine remained silent, he struck her ribs with a heavy iron pipe. The pain was so sharp that the world turned black. But that was only the beginning. She was subjected to the strapado, where her hands were tied behind her back and her entire body weight was suspended from her shoulders. Every minute, the sound of her joints straining echoed through the room. When she cried out, a dirty rag was stuffed into her mouth to muffle her agony. The officer reminded her repeatedly of the atrocities the German army committed in Soviet villages. To him, she was now the collection point for all that debt. After the physical breaking came the psychological assault. She was forced to listen to the screams of other female prisoners echoing from the adjacent cells. She was told she was a ghost, that her identity had been erased from history, and no one was coming to save her. For food, she was given only a salty, rotting soup designed to increase her thirst, yet she was denied a single drop of clean water. When her skin began to crack, and infections set into her wounds, medical help was non-existent. Instead, she was forced into a water cell, standing knee-deep in ice-cold water for hours until her legs turned blue and she collapsed from hypothermia. After months in this abyss, Marine's spirit was completely shattered. She was no longer a soldier. She was a hollow shell of pain. Finally, once every piece of information had been drained from her, she was sent without trial to an isolated camp in the Siberian wilderness, where the cold and disease finally took what was left of her life. Marine's story represents thousands of unnamed women who paid a price greater than any execution. It serves as a chilling reminder that in war, justice often disguises itself as vengeance, and in that fire, innocence is the first thing to burn. Do you believe the treatment of prisoners can ever be justified by the crimes of their nation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. For more untold and gritty stories from history, subscribe to Aviation Tales. We'll see you in the next one.